Keanu Reeves finds his childhood girlfriend selling popcorn in the square and can't believe it. What he did left her speechless. The sun hung lazily in the cloudless Los Angeles sky, casting long shadows across Griffith Park. Keanu Reeves, his hands tucked into the pockets of his well-worn jeans, ambled along the winding path, relishing the anonymity that came with being just another face in the crowd. For once there were no paparazzi lurking behind bushes, no fans clamoring for autographs. It was just him, the warm California breeze, and the distant hum of the city he called home. As he walked, Keanu's mind drifted to simpler times. Before, the glitz and glamour of Hollywood had swept him up in its relentless current. He found himself longing for the days when he was just a kid with big dreams, before The Matrix and John Wick had made him a household name. It was why he'd come to the park today, to reconnect with that part of himself, if only for a fleeting moment. The aroma of freshly popped corn wafted through the air, tugging at Keanu's senses and stirring long-forgotten memories. Without realizing it, his feet had already changed course, leading him towards the source of the tantalizing smell. As he approached, he saw a quaint popcorn cart, its red and white striped awning fluttering gently in the breeze. The vendor's back was turned, her attention focused on filling a bag for a young boy who bounced excitedly on his toes. Keanu smiled, reminded of his own childhood enthusiasm for such simple pleasures. He hung back, content to wait his turn and savor the moment of normalcy. "Here you go, sweetie," the vendor said, her voice warm and kind as she handed the bag to the child. "Enjoy." Keanu froze. That voice. It couldn't be. His heart began to race as the vendor turned around, and suddenly the world seemed to grind to a halt. Ella Donovan. Her chestnut hair was shorter now, with strands of silver at the temples that caught the sunlight. Laugh lines crinkled at the corners of her eyes that were still the same mesmerizing shade of green that had captured his heart all those years ago. For a moment, Keanu forgot how to breathe. Ella's eyes widened in recognition, her mouth forming a perfect O of surprise. The popcorn bag she had been holding slipped from her grasp, spilling its contents onto the grass at her feet. "Keanu," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the pounding of blood in his ears. He managed to smile, though his mind was reeling. How was this possible? Ella Donovan, his first love, the girl who had stolen his heart when they were just kids, here, selling popcorn in a park. The last he'd heard, she had moved away after high school, chasing her own dreams. What had happened in the years since? Before Keanu could form a coherent thought, let alone speak, a small voice piped up from behind the cart. "Mommy, does that man want popcorn?" A young boy, no more than 5 or 6, peered around the edge of the cart, his small hand clutching at Ella's skirt. Keanu felt as though he'd been punched in the gut. Mommy? Ella had a son? As if on cue, a man approached, wrapping an arm casually around Ella's waist and planting a kiss on her forehead. "Everything okay here, hun?" he asked, his eyes darting curiously between Ella and Keanu. Keanu's world tilted on its axis. In the span of a heartbeat, he had gone from the joy of an unexpected reunion to the crushing realization that Ella had moved on, built a life, started a family, all without him. He struggled to keep his expression neutral, even as he felt a piece of his heart crumbling away. I'm sorry," Keanu stammered, taking a step back. "I didn't mean to intrude. I should go." He turned to leave, his mind a whirlwind of emotions, when he felt a hand grasp his arm. "Keanu, wait!" Ella's voice was urgent, almost pleading. "Please, can we talk?" Keanu hesitated, torn between the desire to flee and the undeniable pull he still felt towards her. After a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, he nodded. Ella turned to the man beside her. "Tom, would you mind watching the cart for a few minutes and keeping an eye on Ethan?" The man, Tom, nodded, though his expression was puzzled. "Sure, no problem. Take your time." Ella led Keanu to a nearby bench, far enough away from the cart to be out of earshot. For a long moment, neither of them spoke, the weight of unspoken words and shared history hanging heavy between them. "I can't believe it's really you," Ella finally said, her voice soft and tinged with wonder. After all these years? Keanu nodded, still struggling to process the situation. I'm surprised to see you here, he managed. Selling popcorn, I mean. I thought, well, I guess I don't know what I thought. Ella's smile was tinged with sadness. Life has a way of taking unexpected turns, doesn't it? I never imagined this is where I'd end up, but she trailed off, her gaze drifting towards the popcorn cart where her son was chattering animatedly with Tom. You have a beautiful family, Keanu said, the words tasting bitter on his tongue. Despite his best efforts to sound sincere, Ella's head snapped back towards him, her brow furrowed in confusion. Then understanding dawned in her eyes, followed quickly by, was that amusement? Oh, Keanu, she said, a small laugh escaping her lips. It's not what you think. Tom isn't my husband. He's just a friend who helps out sometimes. And Ethan, he's my son, yes, but... She paused, taking a deep breath. He doesn't have a father. Not really. Keanu's mind raced to keep up with this new information. I don't understand, he said slowly. Ella sighed, her shoulders sagging slightly. It's a long story, one I'm not sure you want to hear. I do, Keanu said, surprising himself with the intensity of his response. I want to know everything, Ella. What happened after you left? How did you end up here? As Ella began to speak, neither of them noticed the small crowd that had begun to gather at a respectful distance, whispering excitedly among themselves. After all, it wasn't every day you saw Keanu Reeves having an intense conversation with a popcorn vendor in the park. Well, folks, it seems like we're witnessing something pretty special here today, a passerby murmured to his companion. If you're enjoying this unexpected glimpse into Keanu's world, why not subscribe to our channel? We'd love to hear your thoughts and where you're watching from. But for now, let's give them some privacy and see how this unfolds. Oblivious to the attention they were attracting, Ella and Keanu remained focused solely on each other, the years melting away as they reconnected. Ella's story spilled out in a rush, years of pent-up emotions finding release. She had left for college with big dreams, determined to make a name for herself in the world of finance. For a while, it seemed like everything was falling into place. She landed a prestigious internship, graduated with honors, and secured a job at a top firm in New York. I thought I had it all figured out, Ella said, her voice tinged with regret. I was climbing the corporate ladder, making good money, but something was missing. I felt empty. It was during this time that she met Jason. Charming, successful, and seemingly perfect, he swept Ella off her feet. Their whirlwind romance culminated in a pregnancy that, while unexpected, filled Ella with joy. I thought it was the missing piece, she said softly. A family of my own, someone to love unconditionally, but when I told Jason... Ella's voice cracked, and Keanu found himself reaching out to take her hand without thinking. Jason had balked at the idea of fatherhood. He gave Ella an ultimatum, him or the baby. When she chose her child, he disappeared from her life as quickly as he had entered it, leaving her alone and scared in a city that suddenly felt too big and too cold. I couldn't stay in New York, Ella continued. I was alone, pregnant, and suddenly unemployed. The firm wasn't too keen on a single mother in a high-stress position, so I came back to LA thinking I could start over. But starting over proved harder than she had anticipated. With a newborn and no support system, Ella struggled to find work. She bounced from job to job, barely making ends meet. And then one day, I saw this old popcorn cart for sale, she said, a small smile playing on her lips. It was beat up, barely. Functional, but I saw potential. I scraped together every penny I had and bought it, fixed it up myself, and here we are. Keanu listened, captivated by her story, and filled with a mix of admiration for her strength and regret for not being there when she needed someone most. Ella, I don't know what to say. You're incredible. She shook her head, but there was a hint of pride in her eyes. I did what I had to do for Ethan. It's not glamorous, but it's honest work we get by. As she spoke, Keanu found himself seeing Ella in a new light. The girl he had loved had grown into a woman of incredible resilience and determination, And, to his surprise, he realized that the feelings he had harbored for her all these years hadn't diminished. If anything, they had grown stronger. "Ella," he said, his voice low and intense, I need to tell you something." She looked at him, her green eyes wide and questioning. "What is it, Keanu?" He took a deep breath, steeling himself. "I never stopped thinking about you. All these years, through every movie, every red carpet, there was always a part of me that wondered, what if? What if you had stayed? What if we had tried to make it work?" Ella's breath caught in her throat. "Keanu, But before she could finish, her thought, a commotion from the direction of the popcorn cart, caught their attention. Ethan had managed to tip over a large container of kernels, sending them scattering across the grass. Tom was trying his best to contain the mess, but he was clearly overwhelmed. "Oh no," Ella groaned, starting to stand. "I should go help." Keanu placed a hand on her arm, gently stopping her. "Let me," he said. "Please, it's the least I can do." Without waiting for a response, he strode towards the cart, leaving Ella watching in stunned silence. As he approached, Ethan looked up, his eyes widening in recognition. "Hey, you're the guy from the movies," the boy exclaimed. "The one who fights the bad guys." Keanu crouched down to Ethan's level, a warm smile on his face. "That's right. But today I think we have a different kind of battle on our hands. What do you say we clean up these kernels together?" As Keanu and Ethan worked side by side, scooping up handfuls of popcorn kernels, Ella watched from the bench, her heart swelling, with an emotion she couldn't quite name. It was a scene she never could have imagined. Keanu Reeves, international movie star, on his hands and knees in the grass, laughing and joking with her son as they cleaned up a mess. In that moment, as the California sun began its descent towards the horizon, casting a golden glow over the park, Ella felt something shift inside her. The walls she had built around her heart over the years began to crumble, and for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to hope. Little did she know, this unexpected reunion was just the beginning. The choices they would make in the coming hours would set in motion a chain of events that would change their lives forever, proving that sometimes the greatest love stories are the ones that take a lifetime to unfold. As the last of the scattered kernels were collected, Keanu stood up, brushing grass from his knees. He couldn't help but smile at Ethan, who was beaming with pride at their joint accomplishment. "Thanks for your help, Mr. Reeves," Ethan chirped, his eyes shining with admiration. "Please call me Keanu," he replied, ruffling the boy's hair affectionately. "And thank you for being such a great assistant." Ella approached the cart, her expression a mix of gratitude and something deeper, more complex. "Keanu, you didn't have to do that," she said softly. He shrugged, his trademark half-smile playing on his lips. "I wanted to." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the years seemed to fall away. They were no longer a famous actor and a struggling single mother, but just Keanu and Ella, two kids from the neighborhood who had once dreamed of a future together. Tom cleared his throat, breaking the spell. "Well, I should probably get going," he said, glancing between Ella and Keanu with a knowing look. "Unless you need me to stick around." Ella shook her head, tearing her gaze away from Keanu. "No, that's okay. Thanks for your help today, Tom." As Tom said his goodbyes and walked away, Keanu turned to Ella. "Listen," he said, his voice low and earnest. "I know this is probably terrible timing, but would you and Ethan like to grab dinner? We could catch up properly without any popcorn-related emergencies." Ella hesitated, her eyes darting to Ethan, who was now busying himself with reorganizing the popcorn bags. "I don't know, Keanu. It's getting late, and Ethan has school tomorrow." "Please, Mom," Ethan piped up, having overheard their conversation. "Can we go to dinner with Keanu, pretty please?" Keanu couldn't help but chuckle at the boy's enthusiasm. "Come on, Ella," he said, his eyes twinkling. "How can you say no to that face?" Ella looked between her son's pleading expression and Keanu's hopeful one, and felt her resolve crumbling. "All right," she conceded with a small smile, "but nothing too fancy. We're not exactly dressed for a night out." "I know just the place," Keanu said, his face lighting up. It's not far from here, and I promise they won't mind our casual attire. As they packed up the popcorn cart and locked it securely, Keanu couldn't help but marvel at the strange turns life could take. Here he was, helping his childhood sweetheart, close up shop in a park, about to take her and her son to dinner. It was surreal, yet it felt more right than anything had in a long time. They walked together through the park, Ethan bouncing between them, peppering Keanu with questions about his movies and stunts. Keanu answered each one patiently, his eyes continually drawn to Ella, who walked quietly beside them, a small smile playing on her lips. The restaurant Keanu led them to was a cozy Italian place, tucked away on a side street. As they entered, the owner, an elderly man with a thick accent, rushed to greet them. "Keanu, my boy," he exclaimed, embracing the actor warmly. "It's been too long." "Good to see you too, Giuseppe," Keanu replied, returning the hug. "I hope you have room for 3 tonight." Giuseppe's eyes twinkled as he looked at Ella and Ethan. "For you and your beautiful family, always." Before Ella could correct him, they were ushered to a secluded booth in the back of the restaurant. As they settled in, Keanu couldn't help but notice how right it felt, sitting across from Ella, with Ethan coloring on the paper tablecloth between them. As they perused the menus, Ella spoke up softly. "Keanu, about what you said earlier in the park." He looked up, his heart rate quickening. "Yes?" She took a deep breath. I never stopped thinking about you either. When I left for college, it broke my heart. But I thought I was doing the right thing, chasing my dreams. I never imagined—" Her voice trailed off as the waiter approached to take their orders. Once he had left, Keanu reached across the table, gently taking Ella's hand in his. "Ella," he said, his voice low and intense, "I need you to know something. Seeing you today, hearing your story, it's made me realize that what I felt for you all those years ago never really went away. If anything, it's stronger now." Ella's eyes widened, a mix of hope and fear swirling in their depths. "Keanu, I don't know what to say. You're you, this amazing, successful actor, and I'm just me, a single mum selling popcorn in the park. How could this possibly work?" Keanu squeezed her hand gently. "Don't you see, Ella, that's exactly why it could work. You're real. You're grounded. In a world of constant pretense and artifice, you're a breath of fresh air. And watching you, with Ethan, you're an incredible mother. You've built a life on your own terms against all odds. That's more impressive to me than any Hollywood achievement." Tears welled up in Ella's eyes, but before she could respond, Ethan piped up. "Mom, are you and Keanu going to be boyfriend and girlfriend?" Ella let out a startled laugh, hastily wiping her eyes. "Oh, honey, it's not that simple. Keanu and we have a lot to talk about." Keanu smiled at the boy. "Your mom's right, buddy, but I'll tell you what. I'd really like the chance to get to know both of you better, if that's okay with you." Ethan nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah. Can you teach me how to do cool stunts like in your movies?" As Keanu launched into a child-friendly explanation of movie stunts, Ella watched them interact, her heart swelling with a mixture of joy and trepidation. It was clear that Keanu was wonderful with children, and Ethan was already hanging on his every word. But could she really allow herself to hope for more? The evening flew by in a whirlwind of delicious food, laughter, and shared stories. They finished their dessert, a decadent tiramisu that Ethan declared was the best thing ever. Ella realized she couldn't remember the last time she had felt so happy. As they left the restaurant, stepping out into the cool night air, Keanu turned to Ella. "Can I give you a ride home?" he asked, gesturing to his car parked nearby. Ella hesitated. "I don't know, Keanu, it's been a wonderful evening, but—" "Please, Mom," Ethan interjected, yawning widely. "I'm tired." Keanu crouched down to Ethan's level. "Tell you what, champ, if your mom says it's okay, how about I carry you to the car? You look like you could use a lift." Ethan nodded sleepily, and Ella found herself agreeing. As Keanu scooped Ethan up in his arms, she felt a lump form in her throat. The sight of this man she had once loved, and perhaps still did, carrying her son with such care was almost too much to bear. The drive to Ella's apartment was quiet, with Ethan dozing in the back seat. As Keanu pulled up in front of a modest apartment building, he turned to Ella, his expression serious. "Ella, I know this is all sudden and overwhelming, but I meant what I said earlier. I want to be a part of your life, yours and Ethan's, if you'll let me." Ella took a shaky breath. "Keanu, I need some time to process all this. It's not just me I have to think about anymore." He nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Of course, take all the time you need, but please don't shut me out. Let me prove to you that this could work." As they got out of the car, Keanu once again lifted the sleeping Ethan into his arms, following Ella up to her apartment. As she unlocked the door, she turned to him, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Thank you for tonight, Keanu. It was more than I ever could have imagined." He smiled softly, carefully transferring Ethan into her arms. "It was my pleasure. Truly." As Ella disappeared into the apartment with Ethan, Keanu stood in the hallway for a long moment, his mind racing. He knew he should leave, give Ella the space she needed, but something held him back. Just as he was about to turn and go, the door opened again. Ella stepped out, closing it softly behind her. "Keanu," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm scared." He moved closer, his heart pounding. "Of what?" "Of this, of you, of letting myself hope for something I never thought I could have again." Without a word, Keanu pulled her into his arms, holding her close. Ella stiffened for a moment before melting into his embrace, her tears finally falling freely. "I'm scared too," he murmured into her hair. "But I think this could be worth being scared for." As they stood there in the dimly lit hallway, holding each other close, both Keanu and Ella knew that their lives had irrevocably changed. The road ahead was uncertain, filled with potential obstacles and challenges. But in that moment, with the warmth of newfound hope blossoming between them, they were ready to face whatever came next. Together, little did they know their reunion had not gone unnoticed. As they parted with a promise to talk soon, neither of them saw the figure lurking in the shadows across the street, a camera in hand. The paparazzi had caught wind of Keanu's unexpected outing, and tomorrow their private moment would be splashed across gossip sites and magazines around the world. The question was, would their fledgling relationship survive its first brush with the harsh spotlight of Hollywood fame? Only time would tell. As Keanu drove away from Ella's apartment, his mind swirling with emotions and possibilities, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a chance encounter. It felt like destiny, like the universe had conspired to bring them back together after all these years. He knew the path ahead wouldn't be easy. His life in the public eye, the demands of his career, the complexities of becoming involved with a single mother, all of these would present challenges. But for the first time in years, Keanu felt truly alive, truly excited about the future. As he navigated the late-night streets of Los Angeles, a smile played on his lips. Whatever happened next, he was ready for the adventure. With Ella and Ethan, he felt he had found something real, something worth fighting for. Little did he know, the fight was about to begin sooner than he expected, as the wheels of celebrity gossip began to turn, threatening to derail their newfound happiness before it had truly begun. The following morning, Ella woke to the insistent buzzing of her phone. Groggily, she reached for it, expecting to see her usual alarm. Instead, she found a barrage of notifications, missed calls, text messages, and social media alerts. Confused, she sat up, her eyes widening as she scrolled through the messages. "OMG, Ella, is it true, you and Keanu Reeves? Girl, you're all over the internet. Call me ASAP." "Ella, there are reporters outside the building. What's going on?" Her heart racing, Ella jumped out of bed and rushed to the window. Sure enough, a small crowd had gathered on the sidewalk below, complete with cameras and microphones. She stumbled back, her mind reeling. How had this happened? They had been so careful, so discreet, and yet somehow their private moment had become public knowledge overnight. Just then, her phone buzzed again. It was Keanu. "Ella, I'm so sorry. I had no idea we were followed. Are you okay? Is Ethan all right?" She took a deep breath before replying, "We're fine, just overwhelmed. There are reporters outside." His response was immediate. "I'm on my way. Don't go outside or talk to anyone. I'll handle this." As she waited for Keanu to arrive, Ella tried to calm her nerves and prepare Ethan for the day ahead. She explained to her confused son that some people had taken pictures of them with Keanu, and now others were curious about it. "But why, Mom?" Ethan asked, his brow furrowed. "We just had dinner." Ella sighed, running a hand through her hair. "Sometimes, honey, when you're famous like Keanu, people get very interested in your life. Even the normal parts." Before Ethan could ask more questions, there was a knock at the door. Ella's heart leapt into her throat, but she relaxed when she heard Keanu's voice. "Ella, it's me. I came in through the back to avoid the cameras." She opened the door, relief washing over her at the sight of him. Keanu looked apologetic, his usual calm demeanor tinged with worry. "I'm so sorry about this," he said as he stepped inside. "I should have been more careful." Ella shook her head. "It's not your fault. I don't know how to handle this. I'm not used to being in the spotlight." Keanu's expression softened as he took her hand. "I know, but we'll figure this out together, okay? I've called my publicist. She's working on a statement to try and calm things down." As they talked, Ethan wandered into the room, his eyes lighting up at the sight of Keanu. "You're back," he exclaimed, rushing over for a hug. Keanu scooped the boy up, a genuine smile breaking through his concerned expression. "Hey, buddy, how are you holding up?" Ethan shrugged. "Mom says people are interested in us because we had dinner with you. Is that why there are people with cameras outside?" Keanu and Ella exchanged a look over Ethan's head. How could they explain the complexities of celebrity culture and media intrusion to a child? "That's part of it," Keanu said carefully. "Sometimes people get very excited when they see me spending time with new friends. But don't worry, okay? We're going to make sure you and your mom are safe." As if on cue, Keanu's phone buzzed. It was his publicist. He stepped away to take the call, leaving Ella to comfort a now anxious Ethan. When Keanu returned, his expression was grim. "They want a statement," he said, "and they're speculating about our past. Someone must have recognized you, Ella. They're digging into our history." Ella felt the blood drain from her face. Their teenage romance had been private, sweet, untouched by the harsh glare of publicity. The thought of it being dissected by strangers made her feel sick. "What do we do?" she whispered. Keanu took a deep breath. I think we need to control the narrative. Tell our story on our terms before someone else does it for us." Ella hesitated. "But what about Ethan? I don't want him exposed to all this." "We'll protect him," Keanu assured her. "We'll be careful about what we share, but Ella, I meant what I said last night. I want to be a part of your lives, both of you, if you'll have me." The sincerity in his eyes made Ella's heart flutter. Despite the chaos swirling around them, she found herself nodding. "Okay," she said softly, "let's do this together." The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Keanu's team arrived, helping to craft a statement that was both honest and protective. They decided to acknowledge their past relationship and their recent reconnection, while emphasizing their desire for privacy, especially regarding Ethan. As Keanu prepared to address the media gathered outside, Ella felt a surge of panic. "Maybe this is a mistake," she said, pacing the small living room. "Maybe we should just wait for it to blow over." Keanu gently caught her arms, stopping her mid-stride. "Ella, look at me," he said softly. When she met his gaze, he continued, "I know this is scary, but I promise you I'm not going anywhere. Whatever happens out there, we'll face it together." His words, so earnest and heartfelt, calmed the storm of anxiety within her. Ella took a deep breath and nodded. "Okay, I'm ready." Hand in hand, with Ethan safely inside with Keanu's assistant, they stepped out to face the sea of cameras and microphones. The flashes were blinding, the shouted questions overwhelming. But Keanu, ever the professional, raised a hand for silence. When the crowd quieted, he began to speak. "Good afternoon," he said, his voice steady and clear. "I know you all have a lot of questions, and I appreciate your patience. Yes, the rumors are true. I have reconnected with Ella Donovan, my first love from many years ago. Our reunion was unexpected but welcomed. He paused, squeezing Ella's hand reassuringly before continuing. We ask that you respect our privacy as we navigate this new chapter in our lives. Ella is not a public figure, and her son deserves a normal childhood. Any intrusion into their lives will not be tolerated. As Keanu fielded a few carefully selected questions, Ella stood by his side, drawing strength from his calm presence. When asked about their past, she surprised herself by stepping forward to speak. Keanu and I were high school sweethearts, she said, her voice growing stronger with each word. We went our separate ways to pursue our dreams, but fate brought us back together. We're taking things one day at a time and focusing on what's truly important: family, love, and respect for one another. The press conference ended shortly after, with promises of more information to come through official channels. As they retreated back into the apartment, Ella felt a curious mix of relief and exhilaration. You were amazing out there, Keanu said, pulling her into a warm embrace. How do you feel? Ella took a moment to consider. Honestly, terrified, excited, overwhelmed, but not alone. That's the most important thing. Keanu's smile was radiant. You'll never be alone again, Ella. I promise you that. As the days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, Keanu, Ella, and Ethan settled into a new rhythm. The media frenzy eventually died down, replaced by occasional paparazzi shots and tabloid speculation. But within their little family unit, something beautiful was blossoming. Keanu threw himself into his role as a partner to Ella and a father figure to Ethan with the same dedication he brought to his film roles. He helped Ethan with his homework, taught him how to ride a bike, and was there for every important moment. For Ella, watching the bond grow between Keanu and her son was both heartwarmingly beautiful and terrifying. She found herself falling deeper in love with Keanu with each passing day, but the fear of losing it all still lingered in the back of her mind. One evening, as they sat on the balcony of Keanu's home, watching the sun set over the Los Angeles skyline, Ella voiced her fears.